I've also enjoying this series on Vantil, and I thank the gentleman who's been commentating. Um, if you want me to respond to your comments, you're better off sending me a private message either at Athanasius TV or Lollard Preachers. Those are the two channels that I'll pop in from time to time to see if anyone send me any messages. I don't come on this channel very much, so I'll be turning comments off because I can't supervise the comments. Okay, information is on trueforms.wordpress, and information is also to be found in Vantil, a survey of Christian epistemology, page 204 and 5. Continuing on the Transcendental, since the non-theist is so heartily convinced that unequivocal reasoning is the only possible kind of reasoning, we must ask him to reason unevocally for us in order that we may see the consequences. In other words, we believe it to be in harmony with and part of the process of reasoning analogically with a non-theist, that we ask him to show us first what he can do. We may, to be sure, offer to him at once a positive statement of our position, but this he will at once reject as quite out of the question. So we may ask him to give us something better. The reason he gives for rejecting our position is, in the last analysis, that it involves self-contradiction. We see again as an illustration of this charge the rejection of the theistic conception that God is absolute and that he has nevertheless created this world for his glory. This, the non-theist says, is self-contradictory, and it is no doubt is from a non-theistic point of view. This appears to be contradictory. The final question is in which framework or in which view of reality, the Christian or the non-Christian, the law of contradiction can have application to any fact. The non-Christian rejects the Christian view out of hand as being contradictory. Then, when he is asked to furnish a foundation for the law of contradiction, he can offer nothing but the idea of contingency. What we shall have to do then is to try to reduce our opponent's position to an absurdity. Nothing less will do. Without God, man is completely lost in every respect, epistemologically as well as morally and religiously. But exactly what do we mean by reducing our opponent's position to an absurdity? He thinks he already reduced our position to an absurdity by the simple expedient just spoken of, but we must point out to him that upon a theistic basis our position is not reduced to any absurdity by indicating the logical difficulties involved in the conception of creation. Basis, it must be contended that the human categories are but analogical of God's categories, so that it is to be expected that human thought will not be able to comprehend how God shall be absolute, at the same time create the universe for his glory. If taken on the same level of existence, it is no doubt self-contradiction to say that a thing is full and at the same time is being filled. But it is exactly this point that is in question, whether God is to be thought of as the same level with man. What the anti-theist should have done is to show that even upon theistic basis, our conception of creation involves self-contradiction. We must therefore give our opponents better treatment than they give us. We must point out to them that unequivocal reasoning itself leads to self-contradiction, not only from a theistic point of view, but from a non-theistic point of view as well. It is this that we ought to mean when we say that we must meet our enemy on their own. We ought to mean when we say that we reason from the impossibility of the contrary. The contrary is impossible only if it is self-contradictory when operating on the basis of its own assumptions. It is this to that we should mean when we say that we are arguing ad hominem. We do not really argue ad hominem unless we show that someone's position involves self-contradiction, and there is no self-contradiction unless one's reasoning is shown to be directly contradictory or to lead to conclusions which are contradictory of one's own assumptions. So there's a lot there that some of it's a bit too deep, but basically what I get out of that is basically the atheist or the skeptic will say that Christianity is not true for X, Y, Z reasons. basically you can ask the questions about reality, who's got the right foundation. So you ask the question about reason. Is reason immaterial or material? Is the law of non-contradiction immaterial or material? And if the skeptic says it's immaterial, if the skeptic says that the law of non-contradiction is descriptive of reality, then what they've done is made the law of non-contradiction part of the material, and then if it's part of the material, the law of non-contradiction changes. If it changes, you can't use it to object to your opponent. So it's therefore absurd and self-defeating. So these are the kind of strategies and ideas that Vantil has in his idea of the transcendental argument, from as far as I can understand. And so basically, again, it's challenging your opponent and seeing whether they're, and more often than not, well, skeptics are not consistent when they look at when we look at their own foundation and critique those foundations. We find internal contradictions to their methodologies.